I was 9 years old when I saw Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and I have very distinct memories of going to see that. I remember that people were so excited for it. When my mom and I went to go see it, we couldn't even sit next to each other because the theater was so packed. She had to sit in the row behind me, which, as a relatively anxious kid, would have made me nervous, but as I watched this movie, I was just sucked in. I loved it so much, and it's really the spark of my love of superheroes. Now, as a kid, I had plenty of familiarity with superheroes. You can argue that watching Power Rangers is kind of like a superhero show. I watched some Batman cartoons and stuff like that, but this is where the spark of loving superheroes really happened for me. Ever since then, Spider-Man has been and still is my favorite superhero. I have arguably way too much Spider-Man merchandise, including a collection of oddly shaped Spider-Man plushes that I find hilariously adorable. So I figured I would combine two of my favorite things: overanalyzing movies and Spider-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming is by far the best Spider-Man movie. Tom Holland is the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man because he really nails the balance between the two. Tobey Maguire was a really good Peter Parker up until Spider-Man 3 when we had this. And Andrew Garfield was a really good Spider-Man, really nailing the sort of smarmy, smartass aspect of that type of character. But Tom Holland is the best overall actor when it comes to Spider-Man, and a lot of that has to do with the script of Homecoming being largely centered on Peter trying desperately to balance being Spider-Man with his high school life. This is the first movie that's really given us that tension between the two halves of his life. So, throughout the movie, we've got fantastic writing, really good acting, really well-directed action scenes, and then it comes to this really dramatic head where Peter bites off more than he can chew, and Tony Stark takes away his high-tech suit that he's been relying on for a lot of the movie. Now, this doesn't stop Peter from going to confront the Vulture with his homemade suit, because, again, even though they never say it in the movie, one of the big credos of Spider-Man is with great power comes great responsibility. He's the only one that knows about the Vulture. Nobody else believes that the Vulture is a real threat, so he has to go deal with it himself. Now, he goes to deal with it in his homemade suit, and he kinda gets his butt kicked. He ends up trapped under this massive pile of rubble, and we have this fantastic scene where he has to get himself out of the rubble, except for one little moment in it that just stuck in my brain, and I had to make a video on it. So here's the scene.
Hello? Hello? Please! Hey, please! I'm down here! I'm down here! I'm stuck! I can't move! I can't...
If you're nothing about this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man! Oh, come on, Spider-Man!
Overall, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, but it also disappoints me just a little bit, and again, enough for me to make a video on it. We have these really great shots and really great acting. It's dark, it's claustrophobic. Tom Holland is giving this, really desperate acting, and it makes me feel like I can't breathe because he's screaming so desperately for help. Then we get this fantastic shot where we have a vivisection of half Peter's face and half of the Spider-Man mask that's floating in the water. And we have this voiceover, just Jiminy Cricket style, of Tony Stark saying, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it. Now, this is a really big plot point in the movie. It happened not too long ago, and as the audience, we get that. This scene conveys that Spider-Man is more than the suit. It's who Peter Parker is. We even get this really great dialogue choice where he goes from saying, "Come on, Peter," to "Come on, Spider-Man, come on, Spider-Man." The two are merging. They're not separate entities anymore. Peter is Spider-Man. Then, of course, he escapes and he goes down and he kicks the Vulture's butt and everything's great. We get a nice happy ending. But this is still a blemish on what is a fantastic movie. I think it's really important for directors to trust their audience. Seemingly little things like this can really harm a scene and the dramatic tension. One of the best parts about this scene is that Peter is alone. He has to get himself out of this problem, and having this advice from Tony Stark pop back into his head takes away from his accomplishment of freeing himself. Now, I know I'm overanalyzing this, but it's very important as a filmmaker for you to expect your audience to be paying attention. You don't need to remind them of things that happened 20-some-odd minutes ago. So let me know what you thought of Spider-Man Homecoming. I still think it's by far the best Spider-Man movie. I think Tom Holland is by far the best Spider-Man. But this is still a flaw, and it's still worth criticizing the things that we love. I'll catch you next time.